Hey there, today we're going to remove the timing cover and reseal it and have a look at the timing chain. To do that, we need to take off all these components in here. So it's probably a good idea to take a few pictures of the way things are and the routing and everything before you go ahead and take some apart so you can get it back the same way it goes together again. You will want to first take the front cover off, which is already off of there, of course, and the starter cover, just like this one already has off too. So that's starting from that point on, we're going to start to remove the alternator first of all. Just pop off those wires. So these 3 bolts have to be removed first. The brushes on this bike are pretty worn and probably will be replaced, but I don't want to take the risk of doing any damage to them, so I'm just going to take these springs and pry them up out of the way and pull on the little wire and so that the brush is kind of hanging in there like that. And then we avoid doing any damage to the brushes when we take it apart, just in case they can be used again. Okay. Now this part is kind of press fit in. Rarely will you be able to just pull it off. You take kind of a large screwdriver and get down between the case and just a little bit of prying. It's not much that it takes. Next, we're going to remove the rotor, and for that you will need a special tool which looks like this. It's something that we offer. First you'll remove the original bolt and then put this tool in instead, and it'll pop the rotor off. Okay, these bolts are usually pretty tight, at least they're supposed to be. So with the motorcycle in gear, I'm going to push down on the rear brake, and that way I can loosen that bolt up. Now with the tool installed and the bike in gear, hold down the brake. There, pop, comes off. Now we're going to remove the timing advance unit. Remove these 2 screws, top and bottom, to loosen the ignition breaker plate. You don't absolutely have to take the condenser off, but I know I'm going to be cleaning this thing, so I might as well just get it out of the way. Now I'm going to go ahead and remove the diode board too. Need to unplug the wires. This is held in place with 4 screws, and it's a 4mm Allen. It's the size you need. And then you unplug this wire on the back. There are 2 wires that go through the timing cover. One of them goes to, well, they both go to the starter. One's just a slip connection. The other one, you'll need to take the nut off with a 13mm wrench. Now we can get all these wires out of the way. Okay, next I'm going to take off the tachometer cable. That grommet's pretty crusty. I think we'll wind up replacing that. Something we'll also carry. All right, now we got it pretty well all stripped down to just the bare essentials, and I'm just going to go ahead and remove all the various screws and nuts that hold this in place. And there should always be a washer in each one of these, so just be careful you get them out. They're kind of a special washer. They're a lot smaller on the outside diameter than you normally would find, so we want to make sure that they don't get lost. Okay, that was all the screws. There's also these special barrel nuts. And those special washers are also located there, so you want to try to get those out with maybe a small magnet before you go too much farther. I'm going to take the nuts off first, then come back and grab those washers. So here's a pretty handy tool, flexible magnet, but lots of different ways to do it. With the help of a small screwdriver, because it's got a lot of grease on here. There we go. Now that all the fasteners are off of here, we're ready to pull the timing cover off. And of course, BMW has a special tool for that as well. It looks like this. I'll go grab it. So that's what it looks like. It attaches here where the alternator usually, or did before, to these three locations, these three bolts, and then you tighten the screw and it cleanly extracts the timing cover. Pretty expensive, elaborate tool. Okay, but here's a cheap alternative puller that you can make yourself easily with parts that you can get pretty much at any place where you buy plumbing fittings. And it's a 2-inch floor flange. And I've drilled 3 holes that I've located from the alternator that match up with these 3 right there. And then I've got these reducers progressively going down to 1/4 inch. And then you have to check if you have a puller set, or you could use a bolt. I had to chase the threads out because, of course, this being a pipe fitting, the threads are tapered. So I just ran a tap through there, the same thread pitch as the part out of my puller set. You check your puller set, what you have, and match something up. But real simple to make, very inexpensive, and it will do the job just fine, as you'll see. Oh, but there's one more thing. You don't want to press against the crankshaft directly. So I have this little piece here, which is out of one of my puller sets. And something similar to this, you'll need some way of pushing against anything other than the crankshaft itself. So now I've got the tool installed, and I'm going to just tighten down this center screw, and the cover should come off nice and clean, which it's already starting to separate. What you got going on here is really 2 things. There's the gasket, which has perhaps some adhesive on it, and also there's a slight press fit of the bearing that's underneath this cover. But it's a good idea to use a puller to take it off rather than a hammer or something like that, in my opinion. Definitely, this will prevent any damage to the cover. You don't want to be getting in there with screwdrivers, prying it off, that sort of thing. So this is a good way to do it. And so there we go. No damage and clean removal of this part. Okay, now that the cover's off, the main reason I wanted to take it off is so that we could replace the seals, and that requires taking the timing cover off to do that properly, as far as the gaskets are concerned. And at the same time, we want to look at the condition of the timing chain. You can see here that there's quite a lot of deflection here on the timing chain. And I'm also looking at the condition of the teeth. And it's just like on a bicycle or motorcycle sprocket. When they get really sharp, then it's time for them to be replaced. Here again, we're not restoring this motor, we're just kind of making it functional, but replacing anything that absolutely needs to be replaced. I'm saying that these sprockets actually don't look too terribly bad. And I think we could get by with just replacing the timing chain. I think it would be a good idea. There's enough stretch as it stretches. When we put the new one on, you'll see there's going to be quite a lot less deflection of the chain in this spot right here. So let's proceed to change out that chain. Now, the chain from the factory has no master link. So we're going to have to, first of all, I'll verify that this one doesn't have a master link, that it hasn't been replaced. But we can replace it with a chain that does have a master link. That way we don't have to completely disassemble the engine, which you normally would have to do to replace an endless chain. I can also feel that there's a lot of wear back here. There's a big deep groove cut in the chain tensioner, so that'll get replaced as well. First thing I'm going to do is remove the chain tensioner spring right here. Take this one nut off. And there's a little clip here that you remove, a little circlip, and then you can remove the tensioning rail. You can see the grooves in there. It used to be all flat, so this has got some wear on it and should be replaced. Okay, now you'll notice when you look at this is that there's markings on these sprockets. And when the motor is at top dead center, they will be facing each other. So what we're going to do is turn the rear wheel the marking. Okay, so the marking's here, and I need to get this marking up to the top and then find that spot. Okay, marking is straight up. You'll see that there is a line scribed on the sprocket, and it can be hard to see, but if you look up inside here, you'll see that there's a corresponding line on the crankshaft sprocket. So this is the starting point, and this is the way it has to be when you're done putting it all back together again. Okay, so we verified this one does not have a master link. It's not been replaced, so it's not going to be super easy. We're going to have to cut a link off. And so it's a really little bit complicated in a way, because the way I do it is I grind off a couple of the rivet heads on one link and separate the chain, basically pop the outer plate off, and then push a new master link into that spot. But the problem is that this is the area where it's easy to work on to cut the chain, to separate the chain. But there's nothing behind it. There's no place for the master link to go. It has to go in that way. So we have to first separate the chain and then carefully rotate everything up so that that cut link is up in this area where there's actually some room behind it to get it through. So what I'm going to do is cover up some of these bits here, and then with a cutoff wheel I'm just going to shave off the link rivet heads. Alright, so all I've done here is grind off the rivet heads of the chain link, and I did it in this position here because I'm going to have to separate this link off of there and need something solid to smack upon. To do it in the middle here someplace wouldn't work, so it's a good easy place to get to. I've got a pretty sharp chisel here. I'm just going to go right in between these two links here, give that some taps to pop it loose. You can see it come loose right there like that. It doesn't take much. And now at this point I can actually take a screwdriver and just pop that link off. There we go. Now the master link is still in there. There's no way that I can push the master link through at this position. There's no place to go. So I have my index marks, which I'll be coming back to, but I'm just simply going to rotate the point where I broke the chain to about here, because I actually have room there to remove the master link, or the broken link. Okay, cool. I'm going to push the link back that I cut and just fold these chain links out of the way just for a moment so I can remove the middle one here. I'm in the deepest part of where I can go, and being careful not to move either the crank or the camshaft. Just kind of pop the chain off with that pin, like so. Take the chain out. Okay, so here's our brand new chain. Just gonna slip that in there. Okay, now that I got the chain in place, I'm going to take the new master link and slide it into the chain partially. And then I'm going to take the next plate and stick that in there. You can already see how much tighter that is. It's nowhere near the amount of deflection there was before. Okay, so now the master link is here. I need to put the clips, the rear plate and the clips on, but it's very difficult to work here. So two things. First, I'm going to rotate things back to get my mark back to where it was originally and verify that it's still opposite the mark on the crankshaft so that I can be sure that I didn't screw things up somehow and get off by one tooth. So that's number one. The master link just sitting in there like that is completely fine at this point. So now that I've verified that my marks are still correct, I didn't mess anything up so far, where the master link is located now is not in an ideal spot to install the rear plate and the clips. Down here I think would be a good spot. So now I'm going to just rotate the motor until I get to a place where it's easy to work on that final assembly procedure. The chain that we offer comes with this type of clips. This is the chain plate and these little circlips. And it doesn't have the conventional sort of spring-on type uni-clip. This is, I think, a really good system. It's something that I remember from back in my Mercedes-Benz days many years ago, is exactly how they did it when we used to change the timing chains on the V8s all the time. So I've got the bike or the motor rotated in such a spot where I can actually get to where I need to work, and I like it down here so if I do drop something, it's not going to disappear, it'll just fall down where I can retrieve it. So the first thing I need to do is get this plate on there. Okay, I got that back plate in there, and just put a small screwdriver behind it, push the chain through to seat it, and then the last thing I need to do now is put these little clips in. So this could be tedious, but basically put it on the end of a magnetized screwdriver, so it kind of balances on there like that. There we go, got it. Just one more to do. Okay, looks good. Now for the timing chain tensioner. This is the original one. You can see it's got a lot of grooves cut in it. This one doesn't, but also not only that, you see there's also quite a difference. The new part is much improved. It's got a larger surface area, it's thicker, and where the original one was kind of like a Bakelite plastic, this one's more of a pliable rubbery hard plastic. So anyway, this is what the new part looks like. And we'll just slip that right back on like so. Reinstall the circlip. I'm going to go ahead and replace the spring. The old one's probably a little bit sacked out. So there's the wave washer is still in place from when I took it apart. Just set that inside there like that. Okay, that's all sorted out. That was the timing chain replacement procedure. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave those comments or questions below, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Please also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can be alerted when new episodes come out. This video is getting kind of lengthy, so we're going to stop here with this, and on the next video, we're going to go through the process of reinstalling the timing cover, alternator, ignition, all that stuff, and get this bike one step closer to getting back on the road. So see you next time.